Hey everybody, Alex Newman here with the New American Magazine. Thanks for watching Conversations That Matter. And we have had special requests. I've had people contacting me saying, Alex, what do you know about this quantum financial system? We need to know. This is huge. Why isn't anybody talking about this? And I unfortunately don't know a lot about the quantum financial system. That happens a lot. I don't know a lot about a lot of things. And so what I do then is I call people who do know. And with us today, we have a very special guest. His name is Travis Bajema. And he actually does know a lot about the quantum financial system. In fact, when I first met him, we were at a conference. I had just come off stage and he came to talk to me. And I just was floored with the amount of insight he had into everything. He wasn't one of those guys that just like watches the YouTube channels and then parrots what he heard. He was one of those guys that actually went and read all of the hundreds of pages of boring documents to find out the bombshells buried within. So he is very, very well rounded, all kinds of different fields. He's been invested in all kinds of different businesses over his career. He knows more than you could imagine about economics, and he's also known as the economic ninja. He's got a very, very popular and rapidly growing YouTube channel called the Economic Ninja. Travis, thank you for being with us. And for somebody who doesn't know anything about anything, what in the world is the quantum financial system and why should we care?
Well, you know what's funny? When I first met you, we were talking about QFS or the quantum financial system, like it was this big hidden secret thing, which it was. But now it sounds funny because I don't even refer to it as the quantum financial system because it's literally being rolled out right now in front of us with its real name, a digital currency system. And so essentially, years ago, there was this conspiracy, let's say, to change all of the world's currencies into a more trackable, more taxable system. And so the term quantum financial system came out, and obviously that was made famous when President Trump had mentioned it a couple times as well. And so all of a sudden it blew up. People just wanted to start reading about it, but they couldn't find a whole lot about it. The reason why is because that wasn't the real name for it, and it was what we now know as central bank digital currencies.
So these central bank digital currencies, and I've seen this pop up in the news. Hey, China's building one. Hey, the Federal Reserve is working on one. Hey, Canadian central bank is working on one. And it's like they all woke up one morning and all suddenly decided, I think we need a digital currency. Or is there some coordinating going on behind the scenes here?
Huge amount of coordinating. So when I first learned about the American version of the central bank digital currency, the digital dollar, was in 2017. I got a hold of the white paper out of Yale that talked all about it, gave all this really neat specific stuff, except for when I started looking at the code base, the part where the inflationary portion of it was actually blurred out. You can't see that it's proprietary, which obviously tells me one thing. This is nothing different than the dollar, except for the one difference, which is scary, is the trackability and the ability to do transaction or taxable transactions. So every transaction will become taxable. So it's a scary thing. One of the things that I read about a long time ago in some Federal Reserve notes were the ability when this happens, this rollout happens, it has to happen during a time of crisis because the American people won't buy into this. And one of the ways we're seeing now is just like how China rolled theirs out, where they do a lottery and they just give it away. And so that's going to be really interesting pretty soon when we start seeing this roll out.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I keep calling you again and again, Travis, because you told me all this stuff was going to happen years before it happened. Now it's happening. I'm like, man, Travis told me that was coming. Man, Travis told me that was coming, and here we are. Where they're literally rolling this out right in front of us. In fact, twice in the so-called stimulus bills they prepared for COVID, they had actually included digital dollars in there, and they were going to hand them out as your stimulus payment. You were going to get digital dollars. Well, Travis, what's the big deal? I mean, isn't it going to be more convenient? Isn't it going to be more handy? And I mean, we don't want people cheating on their taxes, right? I mean, what's the big deal about them moving us toward a digital dollar and all the rest of the world
Yeah.
toward digital currencies?
So it's going to be super handy, quite frankly. And the reason why is they've already built the narrative around it. You know, when the stimulus payments went out and they started building this narrative of, this is needed really fast. We need to rapidly get money into people's hands because they're either unemployed or unemployable, or, everyone's being forced to shut down. They don't have a couple of weeks worth of work. We got to get money into their hands. And they started to build a narrative that they couldn't do it. And quite frankly, I don't believe that narrative at all. Everyone that I know of and that I've asked since I've started my YouTube channel, if they qualified, did they get the money? They sure have. But there's a narrative built around the fact that they just can't get money to you fast enough. And so it's already set up and ready to rock and roll during the, I believe personally, the next crisis, where they will be able to inject money directly into your own personal wallet that there'll be an announcement one day. You'll just download it on the App Store. onto your phone, put in some personal information, and boom, you have money. And what's interesting about this is they're going to even trigger some kind of dopamine response in your brain, because they're going to say, hey, we're going to give you a certain amount of money and you got a certain amount of days to spend it or you lose it, because we need you to help boost the economy. So you're going to see TV sales go through the roof. Candy bar and video game sales probably spike too in those 2 weeks, because this is literally planned. All around the world, countries right now are actually launching their CBDCs as we speak.
And so I guess as part of this, they'll eventually phase out cash, so that every transaction will be recorded, every transaction will be taxed. There will be no, black market. What's the plan with the cash?
Yeah, so hey, the narrative's already built there too. I mean, what we've seen in the last year, how easy it will be to say, hey, how dirty is money? And it's true. I mean, we see currency, it's dirty. I've been handed change by a teller that probably should have washed their hands, 10 times that morning. So we know that's true, which makes it really easy to convince people that this is just old, it's barbaric, it's almost like that old gold thing. It's like, who needs that stuff? Let's use fiat and then watch your purchasing power get destroyed. And so I believe this is going to be a very easy step for people to do.
And what about those holdouts? What about the old granny that doesn't? I don't have a smartphone. So what about the stubborn, the guys that live out in the woods and they get their food by going fishing and hunting bears? How do you bring them into the system?
Well, I can't speak for the bear hunters, but for the people that don't have a cell phone, obviously there'll be a downloadable application on your computer that'll be easy. And I want to be very clear. People say this is the mark of the beast, and I said no, it's going in that direction. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't take free money at this point and then do something really good with it, I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity. It sounds crazy, but this last year we saw a huge spike in precious metal sales, decentralized blockchains like Bitcoin with all this free money, and we saw people buy things of real value that have only so much of it possible with all of that fake digital currency, or stimulus checks. And now those people are walking away. Very few people did it, but they're walking away with tangible goods. So I think it's all about what you do with it when it comes out.
Okay, so you would encourage people to go ahead and download the app that'll come and take their free money and then use it on something useful, right?
Exactly, because the fact of the matter is, once this completely rolls out, there's no choice. That's what I really need. We are such a debt structured society. We fiend off of debt and fake money. And so there's few people out there that understand the value of holding a physical gold or silver coin or owning a Bitcoin and the reason why and how to store it properly, right? Very few people. There's also people that understand how to store food and why it's valuable in a time of need. So I do not look at this as a bad thing right now. I think the whole system's going to be messed up, don't get me wrong, but you have a very rare opportunity to do something really good for your actual finances when this comes.
Fascinating. Well, we're going to be going to a break in a couple minutes, but so it sounds like you think this is inevitable. Is there any way to stop it? I mean, should we try? Or what would be some useful strategies for that if it's possible?
So this is my thing right now. I want to make 1 million people $1 million, and what I'm actually focusing, and I say that as sort of like a catchphrase, a snag you with the tooth kind of thing, or the hook. I want to take Gen Z, the younger generation right now, and show them what real money is. And I want them to understand what it is, the difference between real money, God's money, and fake money. And I want to start seeing them become wealthy through making good financial decisions, getting out of debt, staying out of debt, owning real tangible assets. We cannot change this world unless we have more wealthy people that have a bigger heart than the wealthy people that are trying to take over the world. No, there's only a few out there.
So you don't think there's any way to resist this rollout of digital currencies? It's inevitable. It's baked into the cake. Nothing we can do to stop it?
Yes, it's just like going and buying a mortgage, a house right now for $400,000, $500,000. Very few people have that kind of money in their pocket, so they have to live in that system of debt. So they have to go and get a mortgage. It's exactly like that. The system is huge right now, and the only way you can resist it is having tangible wealth, like the bear hunter. His wealth is not having a massive amount of bills and being able to go outside, shoot an animal, and butcher it. That's wealth, because wealth is time. Time that you don't have to live in the slavery system.
What's going on at the global level? I mean, we see the Federal Reserve doing this. We see the Communist Chinese doing this, the Canadians, the Europeans. They're all doing it. But there's this little-known institution, the Bank for International Settlements, and some of these others, I mean, the IMF and stuff. What's happening at the international level? What's going on? Before we went on, we talked a little bit about the de-dollarization. Do you think we're moving now away from the dollar as the global reserve? What's the big global picture when it comes to money and the future of money?
Yeah, so something I didn't mention in the first segment that I think is really important, and then we'll get into the de-dollarization with Saudi Arabia and all these other countries, is today that we're talking is the day that El Salvador is implementing Bitcoin, pushing Bitcoin out, rolling it out as illegal tender, which means every business in the country as of today has to take Bitcoin alongside of the US dollar as legal tender. And it's a very interesting thing because the media is just trying to destroy this decision that the president and their Congress made together. And today they are doling out $30 worth of Bitcoin to every citizen in the country. And they say, it's free, right? So the media try to destroy it and say, hey, it's tax money he's using. It's like, well, yeah, he's taking your money and giving it back to you. And then if you don't like it, he says, I have 200 ATMs set up nationwide with 0 transaction fees. You can immediately change it in for dollars. Well, today we saw an absolute decimation of Bitcoin, 14% in one point, because a lot of stop losses were triggered, which is easy manipulation. This happens all the time in the stock market to a lesser extent or to degree on a percentage basis, but because the stock market's so much bigger, they can make so much more money. But you see it in crypto right now because they're upset and they're trying to send a message. This is bad. This is bad. But ironically, I saw a tweet come out because the country had bought 200 Bitcoins, I believe it was yesterday. When this smashdown happened, they threw out a tweet and they said, "God, just bought another 100." And I'm just laughing because that is a way that you get out of the system. And that's the problem, is too many people don't understand what blockchain is, decentralized blockchain. The central banks did not have this planned when they had their agenda set for, what was it, 2021 was the original agenda, and then they had to push it back. Well, people don't realize the reason they had to push it back was because when they made this decades ago, they didn't understand what a Satoshi was or what a Bitcoin was because it hadn't came out yet. And this is throwing their plans back a lot. So that is one thing that you are seeing countries, and I mean countries, starting to adopt Bitcoin. They're coming up with plans to try and circumvent the US dollar system. Now, you want to talk about the other US dollar system that's falling.
Well, before we get into the de-dollarization, Travis, I have a follow-up question for you there, because I get this question a lot, and honestly, I don't have a good answer. So maybe you have some insight for us. So it sounds like you're making the argument that Bitcoin and these these cryptocurrencies, I guess, are really like a way to buck the system. And yet I've had people ask me, do you think the NSA or military intelligence had some role in this? I mean, could this be the establishment's way of duping us all into participating in the cryptocurrency before forcing it all on us? What do you say to that idea?
All right, perfect. So I think we should focus on this because my YouTube channel has been growing so fast because I'm able to explain it on a different lower level. And I don't mean that as an insult. The code is so perfectly written for Bitcoin and so easy to decipher. It's written in a very simple language where you have X amount of Bitcoins that will ever be made ever. And then there's a schedule, right? Based on how much activity is going on the network and the computers that are mining, that so many will be released at any given certain time. And then every time a new release comes out, fewer Bitcoins are made or released until there will be no more Bitcoins. All right. So it's a deflationary asset. And because it's a decentralized blockchain, a way of recording the transactions and making sure that every Bitcoin or Satoshi, a fraction of a Bitcoin is spent, is real, what happens is every computer worldwide that has loaded the Bitcoin protocol onto its computer and is running it and keeping the network going, every single computer has to have what's called consensus. They all have to agree that if you took a Bitcoin or a Satoshi, like imagine a penny, a cent of a dollar, and spent it, it has to verify exactly who had that Bitcoin or that Satoshi. And again, when I say who, I'm talking about an account number, no names, and that it went to this other account. And every computer eventually worldwide records every transaction ever on the blockchain. Now, that means that you cannot fake a Bitcoin. People think all the time, because you see these other platforms like Bitcoin Cash come out, or Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision come out, that you can just make a bunch of Bitcoins. It's even written in the protocol that anytime a group of people want to get together and split take the code and make their own version, that to be totally fair, if you owned a Bitcoin and someone says, I want to make Bitcoin tuna fish, right? That you have to, when you split it off, everybody that had, as of a certain time, had one Bitcoin, they get one Bitcoin tuna fish. It's totally fair. And so that's what central banks weren't prepared for. And even if the argument is true that this was some CIA psyop set up a long time ago, and let's say it was, let's use that argument. It would be a perfect roadmap, a perfect avenue to get people to buy into digital currencies, because most people have no clue that they're not anything like each other. They just see it digital, digital. Most people don't even understand how your ATM card works, that's all digital. So the fact is, the rich people know, even if they made it and said, this is how we're going to get everybody into digital currencies, they know that by the time Bitcoin's multi-millions of dollars, no one will have anything left. It's like everybody that gave up their gold. The true wealth of the nation was given up, because as it goes up in price, people still want a new car, they want a new house, they want a boat to impress other people with. Very few human beings have the patience to hold on to an asset till it's at astronomical levels. So even if it was a psyop, it was a darn good one, because honestly, if you're looking at it right now, only banks are buying it up. Hedge funds are buying it. Companies like Tesla are buying it. Every billionaire on earth, and even the ones that say they don't own it, they have exposure to mining companies' stocks. And I'm talking about crypto mining. So you have to look at what the real big plan is and who's really wanting to buy it.
Well, I have so many possible follow-up questions, but we're down to about 2 minutes left, Travis. So I want to ask you two questions, and hopefully you can touch on them. I keep hearing, and I get like investment newsletters and stuff saying, don't buy cryptocurrencies. There's no underlying value. They're worth nothing, essentially, unless people naively think they're worth something. So don't buy them. What do you think about that argument, that intrinsically they're worth zero? So, and maybe they will go sky high, but eventually they'll come back down to nothing. And secondly, how would a person profit off of the emerging digital currency reality that we're heading into, if you think it's possible to do that?
Perfect. So JP Morgan is probably the last culprit that came out and demonized Bitcoin, right? And on that day, Jamie Dimon was saying it's for drug dealers and horrible people, right? On that day, they were caught because a lot of us were watching what they were doing. They bought $40 million worth of Bitcoin when it got smashed down 10%. Those are facts. Jamie Dimon said he'll fire any of his employees that he finds out own Bitcoin, right? Let's fast forward a year and a half. Yeah, fast forward a year and a half, JP Morgan owns a Bitcoin. Well, first off, they roll out Bitcoin purchases to their highest level clients, just so you know. So if you're just at Chase, JP Morgan client, and you didn't get the email, sorry, you're not big enough. But they rolled it out. Now they've rolled it out to everybody, and they're working on their own coin, and they're working on their own exchange. Okay, so those are facts. Secondly, you have to watch where these people are investing their money. All the people that said they think it's horrible now, years ago, now not only own it, they're pushing it, because they either see the light, or they were so busy buying it behind the scenes trying to get as wealthy as they can. Now they go, I've got enough. And so those are facts. Now, if you want to profit from it, I think the most important thing to do is try something very small. Get on YouTube, learn as much as you can. Open up an exchange. It's an American backed exchange. Like, I love Gemini. It's just a really good exchange for me. And start really small. Just go and look at $50 investment and then move it from one wallet to the next and learn about it. Because the sad thing is, a lot of people are missing out on some amazing profit potential.
Well, I know a lot of people are kicking themselves now, wishing they had bought Bitcoin when it was 50 cents. Now it's almost $50,000, but it's very, very volatile market, no question. Travis, thank you so much for being with us, folks. That was Travis Bajema, the Economic Ninja, on YouTube. My name is Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless you all.